Om Asatoma Sadgamayo Tamasoma Jyotirgamayo Mriturma Amritangamayo Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The subject of my today's talk is treasure to possess. A few months ago, we received one letter from Las Vegas. And the letter was sent by an agency who explores the money or bank balance that has been unclaimed for a long time and has been deposited in the government treasury. So they sent the letter in the name of a person whom we know, but unfortunately that person is dead. But the address was correct. That means the address was our address. That means our center's address. So we knew that person, so we became a little curious and opened the letter and found that it is written that in your name, such and such amount, in thousands, amount is lying in the treasury, government treasury. And if you want to get that, just contact us. Unfortunately, as I told you, that person was dead, so we did not know what to do. And that in the treasury, that money is still lying. So this happens. Again, long back, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, in the same way, one person called and told us that, well, I was going through the list of unclaimed money, the government, and found that there's a name of Vedanta Society of Northern California. And do you have any contact with them? I said, yes, I do have contact with them. So he said that you please tell them that this money they can claim and they can utilize. So I contacted them. At that time, Swami Prabodhananda was alive. So I told him that we received this type of call. You please make an inquiry. And they made an inquiry and ultimately they got the money. I do not remember the amount, but in that way, sometimes we find treasure. That means we get money which we did not imagine that we shall get. So this is called treasure. Treasure means money like this, which is a good amount of money, not just a little bit, good amount of money, which actually we can possess. That means it was not with us, but we can get them. In the same way, there are many other items are there which we possess or which are in possession of others, which is considered to be treasure. So while doing research, I found that instead of treasure, I should have said it treasures to possess, but it is okay because everything that we shall be talking about are just talk. It is not that we are going to possess them. That is definitely true. So jewels are treasures. That means people have jewels. That means by marriage or by gifts or by purchase, we acquire jewelries. So those jewelries taken together are our treasure. When mother dies and she bequests, that means she gives the jewelry to mostly to her daughters because jewelry is used by women only. So in that way, she possesses them, acquires them. And in the same way, there might be some bank balance. That means that money might be there and that is also distributed and there is also treasure. Suddenly we get the money from some relative or by inheritance, we get that. And there might, in the same way, like jewelry, there might be some gems also which are treasure. Gems, there are certain gems which are considered to be of national importance. That means it has got such a reputation that people know about that. And the person who possesses that, if that is known, and we actually, that person must be very proud, or might be lucky, definitely. And we think that that person is so lucky that he or she is possessing that. There is one diamond which is very well known, which is known as Kohinoor. It was mined in India, in the in a place near Hyderabad, I believe, when Nizams were ruling. So it was found there, and ultimately it was at that time Mughals were ruling India. That means Muslim rule was there, and it went to the Mughals' treasury, and the king, that means the emperor, used to wear on the crown. And ultimately, India was won over by British. That means British settled here and took the control of India. It became India became a part of the British Empire, and the Queen Victoria took the title Empress of India, in addition to Empress of other England and Northern Ireland and such other places. And she actually possessed that. That means ultimately that was handed over to her, and it went to the British Crown, and it is still there. That means if you see anytime the official picture of present Queen, that means Queen Elizabeth II, and in her crown, actually, that diamond is still shining. That means it is a treasure. That means a great treasure. And in that way, there are other diamonds very well known. Time to time, they come for auction. We come to know that the possessor, the owner, actually wants to sell that, and in that way, it is auction, and people buy that and possess that. So in the same way, there are treasures like pictures. That means not pictures, paintings. Paintings, then sculptures, and all those things are very reputed things, really treasure. That means people like to possess, those who have money. And again, when they want to get rid of it, they sell it, other person possesses it. In that way, they go from hand to hand. So this is actually treasure. That means we value these things very much. And what to say about money, cash, and that one can have, and that passes from hand to hand. Of course, there are other ways of possessing money, is that stocks. That means there are big companies who actually are a public limited company, as they are said, and you can buy their stocks. Probably if you have a few stock of what is called Berkshire Hathaway, I think I have what they're very famous. And if you have at least one what is called share of that stock of that company, actually you are very lucky, because it is so its value is so high. So in the same way, Apple and such other companies which are very well known, their stocks sell at a very high price. If somebody possesses that, actually that will be a great treasure. So it is like this, that anything that is valued by a person or group of persons may be called treasure. And we have national treasures also, that means public property, and they are kept in the museums. And in museums, you'll see that certain things which are very small, and that is but of the great value, very rare thing is still lying there. So there are stories in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna had the opportunity. At that time, the museum was not there. It was a sort of society which maintained a museum. That means it is just a nascent museum, we can say. So they acquired one fossil. Fossil, after a long time, the buried animals or even human beings, and they get transformed into stones. What happens, that means it is buried, so naturally the chemicals of the body, they are very fragile, so they are replaced by minerals, and in that way the form remains but the material changes. So it is stone, it becomes stone, and but the form is there, so we can come to know that, well, this is a fossil of a dinosaur. That means a big animal which used to roam on Earth for probably millions of years ago. And that is a very valuable thing. And naturally, for public observation, or for people can, so that people can say, uh, museums buy them, and in that way they're displayed. And there are many permanent displays also in that way, and in that way museums are created where whatever treasures are kept, national treasure, that means which are possessed not by individuals, but they are possessed by the government or the people of the country, you can say, in general. So these are treasures. And from the point of view of our civilization, treasures are very important, and the treasures that are possessed by different countries, wealth-wise or different items-wise, that country is considered to be very rich. So in United States Treasury probably will find such and such amount, such and such tons of gold is there, and such what is called so many valuable things are there in their possessions in different parts. People possess so much money, so in that way the value of the country becomes rich, considered to be rich. So in that way, treasure is very important, and it is a part of our life. But there are certain other treasures which are really very particular to certain persons or certain group of persons. For us, I can tell you that we belong to Ramakrishna order. There are many orders, that means there are religious groups. So what they value most is the something which is related to the organization. For us, it is very important. Suppose something, some relic is available of say Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother Sarada Devi or Swami Vivekananda or the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, some relics, that means things which they have used, or after they are passing away, when their body was cremated, so the ashes also, or during their lifetime, if somebody had collected some items like probably nails or hairs, so they become very important for us. That means they're spiritually very important. In fact, they are enshrined. In Buddha's life, we see that after he passed away, his body was cremated, and the ashes were actually divided, and they were sent to different parts of India at that time, and they are enshrined in what are known as stupas, and they are very much venerated. That means Buddhists go there, pray there, and they are maintained in with highest purity. And also, Buddha had what is called some nails or hairs that has been during his lifetime, somebody might have collected. They are also enshrined in that way. And not only that, things associated with him are also very considered to be treasures. Buddha got enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. It is a banyan tree, and it is a very common tree in India. But the particular tree under which actually he meditated and what is called experienced nirvana, that is most valuable tree. So after his passing away, the tree actually lives very long time. That means there are many trees which have lived. If you go to what is called Kings Canyon in the national park in near Fresno, you will see there are trees standing for 3,000 years, 4,000 years, 5,000 years. So trees live for a long time. So that banyan tree under which Lord Buddha did his spiritual practices, Bodhi tree, it is called Bodhi tree. And that is very venerated. So after 200 years, there was a king, his name was Ashoka in India. He was very well known. And he was, at the beginning, was a very torturous king. King torturous means just like other kings, that means he used to fight war and expand his empire. In that way he used to do. So it so happened that he waged a war in one place called Kalinga, which is now called Odisha. And there he defeated the king, and thousands of people actually died in that war. And he personally came to see what has happened. And by seeing the massacre, actually, his mind turned into non-violence. He said that, oh, this is a very bad thing, and I should not do this type of thing in future. So he embraced Buddhism. He was a Hindu king. He embraced Buddhism. and he took it as his mission to spread Buddhism. Buddhism depends, the primary teaching of Buddhism is non-violence. Buddhism, Jainism, they have this primary teaching, and they are non-violence. That means you don't kill or you do not hurt, and that is very important for them. That is a part of their spiritual life. So he wanted to spread that Buddhism throughout the world. So what he did, he sent emissaries, that means learned persons who knew the about Buddhism, Buddha's life, and was a preacher. That means they could speak. So in that way, in different parts of the world, at that time, mostly in Asia, he sent these emissaries. And at that time, in Sri Lanka, there was a king, and he sent his own daughter with a sapling of that Bodhi tree. And that sapling was planted there in a place called Anuradhapur. That is the place where that plant was, what is called, the Bodhi tree's branch was put there. That means it was kept there. And it became a very huge tree in time. And by this time, actually, it so happened that original Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, where Lord Buddha had his enlightenment, died. That means it lived there for a long time, but because people did not value it too much, so some nature was there. So naturally, ultimately, it died. That there is no evidence of its existence there. So what happened? But its branch, that means its sapling, that means its progeny, if you call it, actually was surviving in Anuradhapur. So in time, actually one sapling from that tree was brought and again planted in Bodh Gaya, where Lord Buddha had his enlightenment. And that tree now has grown and is considered to be Bodhi tree. So you can see the value of just a tree. That means the time of Buddha, it was there, but then it got what is called, it died. And then actually people venerated it so much that a sapling from its sapling was brought. And in that way, it is a treasure. That means it is very highly honored and respected, and it is protected also. In the same way, we see in the present day, if you go to Kamarpukur, that means the birthplace of Sri Ramakrishna. And you know, in India, in villages, there are mango trees, and people plant that. And some mango trees are not that quality, also not like all trees are not like what is called hafus or keshar, which are very famous in India. And they're available here also, that is, they're exported. And if you're lucky, you can buy one piece probably for $2 or something like that in the season. So in Kamarpukur, there are trees, and Sri Ramakrishna in his boyhood days, actually, naturally, like other village boys, he used to roam about and he used to go to the garden, he used to eat fruits and all those things. So from one tree, once he ate the fruit, and he planted what is called the seed, the pit, he planted. And in due time, actually, it became a big tree. And it became famous later on when Sri Ramakrishna became well known. People of the village used to point out that this tree came out of what is called mango that was eaten by Sri Ramakrishna. You see that tree is standing there. And that tree is very venerated. That means it is still living. And not only living, that means it has a special care also. If it is infected by, say, insect, naturally, probably the topmost entomologists, that means the persons who are knowledgeable for the what is called diseases of the tree, will come and check and give some what is called some sort of advice how to protect it. So in that way, that becomes very valuable. In the same way, in case of Swami Vivekananda also, you see, he also had planted one tree in Belur Math, and that tree is still existing. That means it has become trees. Actually, you know that all trees are not really what is called grow very uniformly or healthy. So at present, the tree which is existing, that means which came out of which was planted by Swami Vivekananda, is in a very awkward shape. That means if you just leave it, let it live by its own itself, actually by this time it might have died. because its branches are so heavy, and it cannot really support its own branches. So there are some props have to be given, some cement walls have been kept to support them. So in the same way, because it is very, very valuable, Swami Vivekananda planted it. So it is a treasure for us. And then you go to, there is a museum in Belur Math. One museum is the museum where Swami Vivekananda actually left his body. He left his body on 4th July of 1902. And at what is called, he was sleeping, and in the morning it was found, not exactly a morning, but during the late, very early morning, he was found, what is called, it was found that he has left his body, and he lived in that room. So he had many articles of use, and after his passing away, they were really become very valuable. People wanted to see. You can see the turban which actually Swami Vivekananda used for the Chicago address. That means that dress is kept there, and people go and see that. And also the stuff that he used to use for walking throughout India, that is also there. And in that way, many other articles of his use or many other gifts that he had received are kept for the display, in the display. And sometimes people want to go there. I remember last, maybe in January or something, the Prime Minister of India, he's a fan of Swami Vivekananda. So he had the opportunity of visiting Belur Math, and he said that I want to meditate here in the room. So he was allowed, venerable person, he was allowed to do meditation there. And he said that, well, I get inspiration by meditating there. So the point is that those treasures actually has that influence that they affect our mind. So they go by association. Just a little, what is called for us, or for, in ordinary sense, a coat doesn't mean anything. That means we are just wearing coat, buying them, giving it a goodwill, and that how many coats actually you have used. And in that way, a stuff and all those things that are of daily use, they are not no value to us, but they are treasure for the because of their association. So in that way, we have many, many treasures in many, many places that are scattered because of their added value, if you call. That means value is added to them because of the association. So there are many other things which are valuable, becomes treasure for us, and if somebody possesses, actually considered to be lucky. A very simple thing. That means it doesn't matter what it is very valuable. And in our order, you see, we have this altar behind me. You can see the altar of our center. That means where we have kept the pictures of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, then Lord Buddha and Jesus Christ. So if something very valuable is there, we usually try to keep them inside that, because it is the most venerable place in the of our center. In that way, in every center or in any temple, actually it is like that. So they are revered. So suppose there is a piece of item which has came from India, that is very valuable, probably a piece of hair or a little bit of ashes that have been kept. It so happened that after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, his body was cremated in a cremation ground, which is Kasipur cremation ground. It can be seen if you have gone to Belur Math. If you just stand on the bank of the Ganges, and if you stand just by the side of the Swami Vivekananda's temple, on the opposite side, you will see there is a cremation ground. And that cremation ground, from a distance, you will be able to see that small temples, that means the three small temples are there. And one of those temples are the place where Sri Ramakrishna was cremated. And by that time, Sri Ramakrishna had some following. So people actually consider to be an incarnation of God, avatar of Guru. So his ashes, that means after cremation, ashes remain. And as you know, in crematorium, they can hand over those, what is called ashes to the parties, that means those who claim them. So in the same way, his ashes was collected by his devotees and kept for worship. So in those days, and nowadays, of course, there are caskets and all those things, but in those days, there a pitcher, copper pitcher was there, in which actually the ashes were taken. One part of the ashes were taken by the young disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, like Swami Vivekananda and others, and another part was taken by Ramchandra Datta. He was the leader of the household devotees, that was senior leader, senior devotee. So in that way, they took the ashes for worshipping. And ultimately, we see that it moved from place to place as the monastery moved. First, it went to Baranagar, then to Alam Bazar, then it came to Belur Math, and in that way, they are installed in the temple. And the installation ceremony, that means carrying those, what is called, they are called treasure. So naturally, they have to carry it in a very sacred way. And Swami Vivekananda took the picture on his head and carried in a procession and put them in the temple. Not this temple that we see now, but during Swami Vivekananda's time, there was an old temple, we call it, is still there. There actually it was established and the worship started there. It used to be, after his passing away, every day the worship was performed, and then it continued there. And ultimately, when the new temple was constructed, the whole picture was put inside the, what is called the altar. Under the altar, it has been kept there in a silk. It was in a silk, what is called, it is sealed by stone. That means it is not, it cannot be taken out. So these are the ways in which actually the treasures are venerated and they are protected, and also they serve their purpose. Suppose I get an opportunity to have the, if somebody says that, well, you see, this is a piece of what is called cloth, or something which has been used by Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother or Swami Vivekananda, direct disciple, it is very auspicious thing for me. So I actually try to pay my respect by worshipping it, or at least touching my head, which is what is known as doing pranam. That means I pay my respect to that object because they are venerated. And this is very important in spirituality. That means that reminds us of the spiritual, it brings spiritual fervor in the mind of the follower. That means it may not be useful for ordinary person, but who knows the significance of the item, then actually it becomes a treasure for him. I know one Swami, he had the opportunity. He was one of our trustees and general secretary, and somehow or other, he had the opportunity of getting probably a pinch of dust of Holy Mother's feet. I do not know how he had got it, but it was so valuable what he did. He made a locket. That means locket of Swamis, of course, don't have the opportunity of having gold and silver. Probably it was made of copper. So inside that copper locket, he actually saved that, what is called pinch of Holy Mother's dust of the feet. And then actually he used to wear with a thread always on his neck. So in that way, we could see that when he used to take out his shirt, there was a small copper locket that was hanging. So you are curious, what is that? So he used to say that this is the Holy Mother's dust, dust of her feet. So in that keeps me, what is called, that's a great position, and that keeps him, what is called, always reminds him of her presence. So in that way, these are very valuable things, it becomes very valuable. So these are the things, they are material things. Ultimately, they are nothing but the material things. In our small way, before me, Swami Shraddhanji was there. So he lived here, and he was fond of music. Those who have seen him know that, and heard him also. And he was fond of books also. That means he was a writer and a scholarly person, and he liked to have relevant books. That means relevant to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, or Swami Vivekananda, or scriptures. In that way, he had a good collection of books. And definitely during his time, there was no CD, there was no what to say about this flash drive, or even what is called, he had TV, but no computer. But he had one sound system, which had, during his time, cassettes were out, and also the LPs and other types of what is called, those discs were there. So he had a good collection of them. good collection in a sense. That means he had some favorite like Miraj Bhajans. So he had Miraj Bhajan, and some of you might be knowing the very well-known singer of his time, Juthika Roy. She was a very famous singer before this Lata Mangeshkar and others. She was very famous singer, bhajan singers, Mira Bhajan singers. So he had a collection of her, what is called records. And in that way, he had some other records that he had collected from different sources and used to listen, and then he had kept. And what he did, Swamis do not have much thing, they do not possess much. So there are a few dresses, a few books, and such other things. So he actually expressed a will that after my passing away, you give away whatever I have, I don't mind, but please save these books and these records. So we did that. That means if you want to see, we have his books collected in his room, and also the records that he used to possess. Not too many, maybe one, maybe this much in shelf. It will be like that. So of course he had many CDs, not CDs, cassettes also. Old cassettes are also there. Those who are very old might be remembering there. He had a friend. His name was Nikhil Ghosh. He was a tabla player, and his elder brother was Pannalal Ghosh. He was a flutist also. They are devotees. So Nikhil Ghosh actually once came here with his two sons. They are quite young at that time, and he used to travel with them. They are also musicians, so in that way he used to do performances. So in that way he gave performance here also. So it was recorded at that time, and it was made into CD. So that also he had, Saddam Swamiji had, and that is a sort of possession, treasure. So these things, what is called, become valuable as the time passes. And there are some articles which loses value also. Car, suppose you have a car. So as time passes, we have a car which is 22 years old. That means, yes, in 1999 actually possessed. Probably its market value is zero. That means if you go, somebody probably, if you leave on the car and say that this is for sale, nobody will come and buy that car. So it loses value. But aircrafts actually has the opposite thing. Once I had the opportunity of riding a small plane, that means two-seater. A devotee is there in Portland, Oregon. So I visited Portland, and the Swami said that, would you like to go to see the Mount Helen? Mount Helen is a live volcano. That means time to time it erupts. But at that time it was quiet. That means just a small thread of smoke was coming out. So how it will be possible? He said that we have one devotee, Larry, his name was Larry, I forget his last name, elderly person, a devotee of Swami Ashishanandji. So he was a long-standing devotee, and he had his private aircraft. So Swami used to offer, that means if you want to go and have a ride, he can take you and to the near the crater, and you can see closely the Mount Helen. So I said, yes, I can go. Then I went to the what is called airport, and he had a garage. I do not know, it's a hangar. In the aircraft remain in hangars, not in a garage. So he took out his aircraft, and I saw that is a very old aircraft. Old means, that means man. That means what is called, that propeller is there at the nose, and just two-seater, and the gadgets that are there very old-fashioned. That means a knob and what is called switches and all those things. Nothing extraordinary. That means it is very what is called elementary things that are there. So I said that, well, you still fly this aircraft? No, yes, I do. That means it is still there. So, but it is very old. Why don't you sell it and buy a new one? He said that, well, nobody will buy this one. Why? But, the in aircraft industry, as the time passes, that means suppose you bought this aircraft 20 years ago, the value of the aircraft will increase. It doesn't depreciate. So that is the situation with the aircraft. So that is a interesting thing that I learned. That means it becomes a treasure. Old aircrafts are treasures actually. It is not a junk it doesn't become a junkie. So in that way, there are different types and different ways the treasures are what is called valued. So now these are of course, since I told you about the Swami Shraddhanji, let me share some other treasures also that different Swamis like to have. Swami Chetananji, unfortunately we could not bring him this year because of the what is called coronavirus, and but he had come here every year. That means for 20 or 22 years, since 96 or 90, 98, I think, or 97 probably. No, 96 he came, 97 he did not come, from 98 actually onwards. Every year, just before the summer vacation, in the month of July, middle of July, he came. He used to come during Shraddhanji's time also. That means when Shraddhanji was alive, he used to come to meet him because he knew him from his young days. That means even before he had become a monk. So naturally, he had an attraction for him. So he used to come, give a lecture, and after that, we used to close. So I said that, well, Swami has passed away, but you continue to come, and we shall hold one retreat with you. So in that way, the retreat started. And so, as you know, he's a very good writer and he has written many, many books. And he is not hobby, but he actually he loves to collect not only articles of what is called previous Swamis, but their diaries, their letters, and not exactly that their possession, that means articles of that they have used, and also the old books that they had. So in that way, he had a huge collection of these things. And not only that, he himself is a what is called a collector of his things, in a sense. That means you'll find in his center all the lectures that he had given in the what is called in his center. So all CD in the form of probably cassettes, CDs, they are preserved. And he has collected from the CDs and cassettes of different Swamis, all old Swamis, cassettes, and even spools are also you'll find. So that is his hobby, and they're treasure for him. And naturally, these treasures they like to be preserved. And the way he had collected his told one story. We had one Swami, his name was Swami Dhireshananda. He was a very scholarly Swami, very what is called, and also at the same time a very ardent spiritual practitioner. That means he lived in the Himalayas mostly, but he used to travel here and there a little bit, like Benares or Vrindavan. I have never seen him in Kolkata, but I met him in Mumbai once where he came for treatment. At that time, he was quite old. He had nice beard. That means just like a rishi, he used to. His appearance was like that. So he has good friendship. Friendship means a good relationship with him. So Swami Dhireshananji knew that Chetananji has some liking for collection of these old things. So he used to write diaries. Our Swami Shraddhan Swamiji also used to write diaries. So he had a set of diaries. And Swami Dhireshananji became old, and he thought that, well, when after I die, so the room will be clean, and my possessions will be what is called disposed away, or what is called the Swami will be saying that those who want Swami's things, if they can take away, in that way all those things will be dispersed. So he had a good collection of diaries and letters and all those things. So he asked Chetananji to take away all those things and see if he can utilize them. And in fact, he is utilizing them very much. That means you'll see now he is giving a talk, series of talks, reminiscences of old Swamis. That means monks of the Ramakrishna order, past monks of the Ramakrishna order. In that way, he has a series of talks. That means for years, actually, he is giving that, and books are coming out. And also, he has what is called, from those diaries and other things, he have collected many reminiscences of different Swamis, not only of our order, but what Dhireshanand Swamiji had made many Swamis. And here in the diary, he has written their reminiscences and their teachings, and he is publishing, Chetananji actually publishing in our magazines. So these are the intellectual treasure, you can say. That means we value them, and those who know the values actually preserve them. So these are the ways actually we see that treasures have different, what is called ramification. That means different ways one item can be very valuable. And something which is valuable to me may not be valuable to you. Something which is valuable to may not be valuable to me. There's an instance in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So one day, one devotee came. His name was some Muni Mollik. And he came to Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshinamurti, said that there is an exhibition going on in Calcutta, in the Maidan, in Asiatic Society. And they have brought many things from different parts. And in that way, it is worth seeing, worth going. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna once went to see the museum that was very in a nascent condition. And from there, he actually saw the fossil of a dinosaur, or no, fossil of a human being, actually. So fossil or just a skeleton of a human being. Of course, fossils were also there. So Sri Ramakrishna had seen that, but it is another batch of new items have come, and so they are on display. So he was praising and he was requesting or asking Sri Ramakrishna to see and visit the what is called this exhibition once more. And at that time, there was a young devotee was there. And so he also had seen that. He said that, well, if you go there, you'll be able to see a throne that one prince of sent, which is made of gold. They have displayed that. And Sri Ramakrishna listened to those things and then said that, yes, when I go there, or those who are spiritual and go there, they see those things and they can really, that inspires in them what? It does not inspire all to them, but they know that these things are really immaterial. That means there is no value for them from the point of view of spirituality, because they do not last long. They will not remain forever. So the things turn in this way. That means after seeing those things, actually, the mind will be turned. At least it happened to Sri Ramakrishna, what is called, he was a seeker of eternity to God. So the point is that one treasure inspires something to somebody, and that same thing may inspire something to other. In case of Sri Ramakrishna, all these valuable things are just trash. That is the conclusion. But for ordinary persons, they are very valuable. Probably you go to where the auctions are going on. So in their reputed auction companies actually sell what is a small things, maybe of millions of dollars of value. So they are valued in that way. So the point is this, that the value is created according to the what is called attitude that people bear to them. Now, is there any treasure which is permanent? That means whether it will be useful forever. And yes, it has been said in our scriptures that yes, there are certain treasures which, if you possess, actually that will remain with you forever. And not only that, that will be helpful for your what is called spiritual growth and self-realization also. So in Vedantic book, we see that has been said that these are the what is called treasures that is there. In Shankaracharya's book, that means Vivek Churamani, and also in a subsequent book by another writer known as uh, that book is what is called. Okay, there also, I shall tell you the name of that book. It is just not coming to my mind. And it is coming from the Vivek Churamani. It is a standard book of Vedanta. There actually he has said that one needs to possess 6 treasures. That means if you possess these treasures, actually, they will remain with you forever. And that will not, and not only that, that will take you to liberation. That means self-realization. What are they? First is the practice. These are the practices, and by practices actually they can be acquired. You don't have to buy by paying $1,000 or $10,000 like that, the way we possess material things. These are really cultivable. That means you can yourself cultivate, and in that way it will be treasure to you. First is that tranquility. Then tranquility means detachment of the mind from all objects, seeing their imperfection and directing the mind toward ultimate reality, towards God. So all the material things that we see through our senses, that we feel, that we taste, or that we touch, actually we have to leave them for when we die. It will not go with us. And when we possess them also, they are the what is called the causes of our anxiety, how to protect it, how to save them, how I can hide them so that they are not stolen. All those botherations are there. So those treasures are, as Sri Ramakrishna has said, that they are nothing but the trash for a spiritual personality. That means they do not say monks and others, as I told you. Of course, there are material things, as I told you, by association, they become value to the monks also. But in general, actually, you can say the material things that one possesses, if they are valuable, that may be treasure for somebody, but definitely not for a spiritual seeker. And for that reason, spiritual seekers need to cultivate his own treasure, which is a great possession for him and be helpful for the spiritual realization. One of them is the tranquility. Tranquility means, that means all materials that are there are impermanent. They are not really helpful for the spiritual growth. In that way, don't pursue them. That is the point. That is, don't try to possess them. There's no use for them in the long run. In that way, you cultivate this attitude, and this attitude will remain with you forever, and that attitude will be helpful to tranquilization of the mind. The mind will become tranquil, undisturbed. And in spirituality, undisturbed mind is the only thing that can bring a realization. So the more control you have over your mind, the better is for your spiritual life. Then second is the self-control, detachment of the sense organs, perception and actions from the objective things. That is also there, and self-control. That means there are many things we are seeing, we like them, and probably that after liking, actually we might like to possess them also. So that thing, those things which we actually perceive through our senses, we have to control our senses so that they do not really get attracted to them. So the senses, sight is there, sound is there, taste is there, touch is there, smell is there. In that way, all the senses have got their object of attraction. And if we can control them, that means if our senses, respective senses, do not crave for them, that will be self-control. Of course, for our living, we have to apply our senses, otherwise we won't survive. But we should know to what extent actually we should use them so that we don't get attached to them. And also we have to be very choosy. What will be useful for us, maintenance of the health or maintenance of the what is called mind. So there are things which are healthy for spiritual purposes. In that way, we should have them, but not to possess things which are not really useful. They may be detrimental for our body and mind. So that self-control is another treasure that we need to possess. Then there is a mental poise, permitting the mind to react to external stimuli. Sometimes it happens that heat and cold, or if some person comes and talks in such a way that we become angry. So all those things are there. So it is important to keep the mental poise under all circumstances. So that is another treasure, if somebody can cultivate, that will remain forever, and it will be helpful for spiritual growth also. Then for variance, it is called titiksha. Sahanam sarvadukhanam apritikara purvakam. That means all sorts of negative things. Dukkha means sufferings. Sufferings are there. There are three types of sufferings. That means our body sufferings is there. That means if you have disease, nobody possesses a perfect body. So sometimes there is a heat and cold actually creates maybe flu is there. Now actually we are suffering from this, what is called coronavirus. So we have to protect them. So in that way, we have three types of suffering caused by our body. That means when it is ill, then it is caused by outside objects. What is called somebody may hit or hurt us, accident, and all those things may happen. And also there is also nature is also there. You know, this forest fire and all those things. These are natural things. That means we do not have control over them. So much suffering is there for this type of natural things: flood, famine, what is called fire, then then what is called cyclone, and all those things are there. So we have to suffer from them. So when those things come, they are inevitable. Nobody can really avoid. We do not know what will happen at what time, and uh, that we do not know. But we cannot really get rid of them. They are inevitable in one's life. Or we have to live for 100 years, so you cannot really deny their existence. So forbearance means, yes, we can take protection as far as possible, but if they are inevitable, we should have to bear them. That means we should not really, what is called, get disturbed by them too much. So that is called forbearance. Then is the faith. Faith is a positive thing. Positive things means that you have to find out where actually your mind is really attracted. That means where you can mind, you can cultivate a permanent anchor, if you call it, in your life. And they are actually the scriptures. That means where the spiritual advices are there. They are eternal. Eternal in a sense, that means they have been tested. Somebody gave the spiritual advice and somebody followed that. And in his turn, actually, he taught that. In that way, that those teachings have come down, and they have been found that they are really very, very useful for our living life. So that type, if we have faith in scriptures, actually, that will bring peace of mind. And not only that, by following that, we ourselves will be able to realize our true nature, ourselves, or realize God. And of course, along the scriptures also, the gurus, teachers, words are also very important, because they are knowledgeable, just like doctors. Doctors are like what is called gurus. They are the gurus of health, and teachers, and real gurus are doctors of the mind and spirit, you can say. Their advices, or by paying their respect to them, actually get their advices, and they are helpful, and they are the only persons who actually can guide us in spiritual life. So we have to have faith in them, so we can make our selections according to our liking, and just like we select a doctor or something like that. So once we actually find somebody, and then actually we have to be we have to depend upon them, we have to faith in them, then actually things will work. Then then another thing is there, which is known as self-surrender, which is keeping the intellect fixed upon the pure Brahman, and by repeatedly concentrating on them. That means self-surrender means, that means he is the highest, and I am actually trying to reach him, and we have to faith their existence. The difficulty in spiritual life is that we are really groping in darkness. That means we have to faith in scriptures, we have to faith in the words of the guru, but we are in a dark room actually. We do not know where the material actually existing. So the point is that we have to faith that it exists. That means the thing that we are searching, it exists. We have to that type of faith, and not only faith, that means we have to reach that. So in that way, you have to have self-surrender. That means greater than me, superior to me, something which is what is called much, much bigger, and something which is all curing. That means mind and body. The purpose of the life will be served in that way. We have to respect it. So these are this faith. These are the 6 treasures which are considered to be permanent. Permanent means if somebody possesses that, he will be satisfied in his life, and not only that, in his in that time of death or during his lifetime, if he is very lucky and sincere, he can have the self-realization. That means the purpose of the life from the spiritual point of view. Purpose of the life may be different for different persons, but we are seekers. That means we'll know what is the purpose of life, and in that way, it has been said in our scripture that these are the qualities, treasures we need to possess for the self-realization. In other places also, there are different, what is called the virtues. As I said, there are certain other virtues also that can be possessed, especially in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna has said about what is called 26 virtues. That means divine and demoniac virtues. That means certain virtues which are considered to be elevating for spiritual life. Daivi Sampad, as it is called. There are 26 of their virtues. So those virtues, if they are cultivated, then actually a person becomes fit for self-realization. So in many places in scriptures, we'll find the preliminary things are scattered, and they have to be cultivated just like, and have to be possessed just like treasure. Then actually the spiritual life becomes smooth and fruitful. The point is that without possession of these treasures, actually it may happen to very lucky ones, but for ordinary persons, it will be very difficult to what is called to have spiritual unfoldment for progress in spiritual life. That is why these treasures are worth possessing. So we have to possess these treasures. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this talk. And I just wanted to make just one announcement. Next Sunday, our bulletin is not printed. Printed means it has not been emailed yet. So next Sunday, Ishodhanananda will speak on finding our dharma in an age of climate change. It is a very contemporary thing because climate is changing. We are having this forest fire. So he has chosen a very relevant subject, finding our dharma in an age of climate change. That is the subject for our October 4th talk. Then I shall continue our class on Uddhava Gita on Wednesday at 7:30. And also there will be a discussion group conducted by Swami Shraddhanananda on Friday at 6 p.m. And also on Saturday, again on at 7:30 p.m., just like yesterday, I shall continue the discourse on Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And I welcome you to attend all these talks and classes. So let me conclude with a benediction. Om madhuvataritayote madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhi santoshadhihi madhunakto mutosasi madhumat parthivogangrajaha madhudaurastana pita madhumanna vanaspatihi madhumagangastu surjaha madhirgavo bhavantunah. Om madhu madhu madhu. Sweet with the winds and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the earths and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us with the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessings. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us with the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us with the shining sun. Sweet unto us with the all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace.